Hey, everybody. You still have time to go get your popcorn, your favorite snack, your favorite beverage, and also to send a quick message and let people know that it's time to grandstand. All right. If you're on with me tonight, please say hello. Please say hello. Let me know that you're here. Hello there, Mama. Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing on this evening? This cold winter. Well, actually, it's not officially winter yet. That doesn't happen until December 21st, which is also my 62nd birthday. Yay! Yes, you can go ahead and wish me a happy birthday now. You most definitely can. But it is cold outside, you all. And so this morning and on last night, I think the night before, it was supposed to freeze in my area. And so it has been extremely cold. A little funny, I was talking to my mom today, FaceTiming my mom today. And she asked me, she said, Theresa, are you cold? You're bundled up in your coat and scarf and everything. And I had to tell my mom, yes, it is cold, or I'm cold. I'm cold. So yes, how is everybody doing on this evening? I'm so glad that you're here with me on tonight. In case this is your first time ever stopping by, I am the other Mother Theresa from East Texas, that is, from Nacogdoches. And tonight we're going to grandstand. We grandstand with Mother Theresa every Tuesday night from 7 o'clock until about 7:30, 7:45. But we are just glad to have everybody that's tuned in. And listen, let me just tell you, when you tune in to listen to me, I am so very grateful. I am so very thankful. So thank each and every one of you all that have tuned in on tonight. Again, if you don't mind sending me a quick hello and let me know that you are here, I would like to know who's listening on tonight. And then also for my other listeners that's going to catch the replay, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, wherever you may catch it. And it's like in little tidbits, so you only get a little bit whenever you're watching my little minute moments with Mother Theresa. But if you're going to catch me later, thank you all for joining in. Leave comments. Let me know if I'm talking about the things that interest you, or sometimes I'm talking about things basically that is strictly for me. Okay. And, a lot of times people, when you go to church, they said, the preacher, when they're preaching, a lot of times you might hear the preacher say, well, I'm talking to myself first. And so a lot of times when I am grandstanding, I am actually talking to myself first. Okay. I'm talking to myself first because guess what? If I am in a bad place, or if I'm in a place where I can't hear from God, or if I can't, be in a good place, then I am not, or if I don't keep my cup full, then I'm not going to be able to pour or to share or to try to encourage you. So I got to try to keep myself in a good place. So, and that's what I try to do. Okay. So, I'm going to ask you all, I'm going to just jump right in and ask you all about the homework assignment. Now listen, when you all are grandstanding with Mother Theresa, I have to bring you in. I have to pull you in. I don't want anything, honey. I don't want the cup. I have water right here. I have to pull you in. Y'all, that's a good husband. That's a good husband. He heard me say something about a cup and being able to drink and have a full cup. Honey was at the door with a cup for me. That's a good husband, y'all. He's listening and paying attention. But what I was asking you all, did you all do your homework assignment? And you may say, well, Mother Theresa, I don't even remember what the homework assignment was. Well, let me just share with you all what the homework assignment was from 2 weeks ago. I asked you all, what could you do during that week that would showing your generosity towards others? Now, I am quite sure that so many of you all were able to complete the homework assignments. But when I asked you all on last week about the homework assignment, nobody could tell me what they did. So I need you all to tell me, how have you shown generosity to someone else in the last, I would say, 2 weeks? Hello there, my people. Donald Clemens. Hey, Donald. I hadn't heard from you in a long time. Donald was my neighbor growing up in Oak Hill Plaza. Hello there, my Candace, my Shekinah, my honey, and my mom. Thank you all for being here on tonight. So, if you've done anything in the last 2 weeks that showed generosity to someone else, could you please just, if you don't mind, put a little bit in the chat, or just if you don't feel like writing about it, if it's something private, just give me a couple of stars, or not stars, I think it's hearts or thumbs up to let me know that you've done this. And that's where we're going to kind of pick up on tonight, because you know, a lot of times when I talk about grandstanding, I talk about the grand things that that's happening in the lives of, in my life, and then also the lives of people that are in my circle. And so when I listen to different people, and I listen to different ones that share about the things that's happening in their lives. And so, and a lot of times it gives me conversations, or it gives me ideas of things that I can talk about, but it also causes me to reflect on my own life. And so just recently, Avi and Amani, are y'all listening to mommy on tonight? These are my two sugars, and I understand that they were listening the other night and were trying to talk to me, and I wasn't talking back to them. So Avi and Amani, if you're listening, I want you all to really pay attention, okay? But what I wanted to share with you all, I had started talking about it last week, about where Boris and I were having a conversation about the prayers of others that have gone on to glory, about how we are actually living the prayers, or we are the recipients of those prayers that our grandparents, our aunties, our uncles, our neighbors prayed for us. And it's ironic that Donald Clemens is on here, because I've talked about his mom, Miss Aline, as being one of the ladies that was so instrumental in my, me being a Christian, and me, really looking at my life and looking at her life, and just thinking about how she was just a godly, saintly woman. And so, but yeah, so Donald, if you're still listening, I've talked about your mom before as being a great role model of a great, Christian lady. But when I start thinking about the generational, and that's what I'm going to talk about tonight, is generational faith. Because as Boris and I were talking, and we were having a discussion about our people, the people who prayed for us, and we have to understand that the faith that we have, and the, I would say, the relationships that we have with God, I believe it just didn't start with us. If you think about it, many of us grew up in homes where either our parents were, saved, and they lived a life that was pleasing to God. I'm not saying that they went to church every Sunday, because I will just be honest, and I will tell you that in where I'm at right now in my life, I'm not at church every Sunday, but I still believe that I am really a child of God, and I believe in God, and I worship God, and you know, my husband and I, we enjoy being able to have church on Sunday mornings with, you know, the people that we have church with, and being able to watch and really take in and feel the blessings and the anointing of God. But what I will say is that, as I was saying earlier, faith just doesn't start with us. It does. I believe that it's been passed on. I believe that we have had people in our lives, again, whether it's our parents, our grandparents, or just family members or friends who have left a roadmap for us to follow. And so, and I think about a situation where, y'all forgive me, this is my my printer over here. I don't know what is printing, but I guess let me just turn it off, because it's making a lot of noise over here. But I can remember that growing up with my grandparents, which is my mom's parents, and at one point being able to go to church with them, being able to go to the little church in fellowship, and just as a little kid, just being able to spend some time, you know, in service with my grandparents. Now, and I can't remember if Big Mama and Big Daddy went. I think they both did. But, you know, just being able to have that experience with them, being able to go to church. And so, and I know that as that was happening, I know they were praying for us. I know that they were praying for their families. They were praying for their grandchildren. And I can just only imagine that, because I know that's what I do. And then not only that, going to church with, you know, with Big Mama and Big Daddy. And oh, let me just tell you, I have some fantastic memories of some things that happened at the church. And when they had they would have the big day where, you know, it would be, I guess the church is homecoming and all of those different things. But another memory that I had, or another thing that I did not know until I was an adult, is that my paternal grandmother, which would be my father's mother, was married to a preacher, and they pastored a church. And the church that he pastored, or that they pastored at, was a little small wooden church that was on, oh my goodness, where my husband his grandmother lived. And I can't think of the name of the community. Honey, what was the name of the community that your grandma Lolo lived in? Little Creek. Little Creek. Okay. So my grandparents pastored a church that was on Little Creek. And my understanding is that when, I don't know if he was no longer a pastor or if he had passed on, I don't know the circumstances. But what I found out as an adult is that that same building where my grandmother and Little Creek, yes, thank you, honey, where they were the pastor of the church, that church was then sold to Davis Memorial, which is the church that I spent probably most of my adulthood in. Not that same church, but that little building that they started out was actually the sanctuary that my grandparents actually pastored. Isn't that an amazing little tidbit of information, of history? And so, and when you think about it, and I know my girls are listening, and my husband, and even, you know, my mom, but when you think about, sometimes you don't know the pull or the connection that you may have with the place why that place, why Davis Memorial was so special to me, why it was something that I just felt connected and drawn to. And even before I became an adult, I can remember going to visit Davis Memorial Church. And so much so that there was a picture that was taken one Sunday that I was visiting there. And I was on the front row of the church. And I think my sister Grace was with me. Speaking of my sister Grace, today is her birthday. My oldest sister's birthday is today. And I just want to say happy, blessed birthday to my amazing Grace. That is my oldest sister, and she is celebrating her birthday on today. So you all definitely say happy birthday to my sister Grace. So, but anyway, going back to, and I know I'm just kind of jumping around tonight. Listen, just bear with me and try to flow with me, okay? But isn't it amazing how that a place that I was drawn to and connected to for several years was actually a place that had some ties to my family. And so, and when I talk about generational faith and leaving a legacy that lasts, we have to understand that this thing is passed down from generations to generations to generations. And again, I want to be very clear when I say that I'm not talking about, being in church every Sunday, every time the doors open. I'm talking about just a legacy like of prayer, a legacy of just having a relationship with God, a legacy of love, a legacy of servitude, a legacy of just being the absolute best that you can be. And let me just tell you, I know that that there have been some grand people in my life. And when I say some grand people in my life, I'm thinking about my grandparents. I'm thinking about my mom. I'm thinking about, my dad, my stepdad, the people that have been in my life, my in-laws, and I think about those people that have helped to shape me to be who I am. And guess what? I believe all of that was built on prayer and righteousness, okay? And let me just also share this with you all, is that when we start thinking about, prayer and righteousness, some of us, we grew up hearing bedtime Bible stories. Some of us grew up, on Sunday mornings, getting up, having to go to Sunday school. And even if you didn't get up and go to Sunday school, you got up and you went to the 11 o'clock service. And then you went back. If you were like me and my kids, we were there for Sunday morning service, Sunday night service, Friday night service, Wednesday night service, choir practice, and you name it, YPWW. We were there. We were there. So much so to my mom asked me one time, when do y'all have family time? When do y'all have time to rest? When are you all not at church or not going or not just always busy? And it took me a while to realize what my mom was talking about. And Mama, I appreciate you. I didn't see it now, but I didn't see it then, but I definitely see it now. But some of us, like I said, we grew up listening and having our parents or our grandparents or, someone reading us Bible stories, someone, I don't want to say dragging us to church, but getting us to church, putting that love for God and the love for the word and just the love for, humanity, putting that in us. And so for us, it comes natural to do the same thing for our children. Hearing your parents pray, hearing, knowing that they were trusting in God for different things that we needed as a family. And so, and I can just imagine that for some kids, that if they don't see that, they wonder if something is wrong because that's what they've always seen. And, and I'm very thankful for, like I said, the people who poured into my life, poured into my husband's life, because it really, really did change, the way that we try to instill the love of God into our children. And I can tell you, and then not only that, but our children's children. And And I was recently, well, it's been a couple of months. I was at church with Ned and Candace, and I was just so full as a parent and as a grandparent to watch my girls to be able to go forth in ministry and to be able to participate in their adults. They are adults. You know, when they were children, we made them come with us, okay? We made them go to church. But now they go because they want to. And not only was my children serving in ministry, but my adult grandchildren were serving. I think even Chase may have been doing something on that particular day. And so I am grateful. And when I saw that, it was just like, you know, I just began to cry. I just began to cry because it was like God reminded me that the prayers that my husband and I had for our children, I was seeing it come to pass. And let me just tell you, that is such an amazing feeling as a parent to be able to pretty much watch, I would say almost like things come full circle. Because growing up, when Boris and I were younger, you know, we did so much in the church. We did a lot of different things. And I want to always go back and say, be careful about the works that you're doing, okay? And thinking that it's all about the works that you're doing. But you've got to have a heart for it. You've got to have a love for God. You've got to have a love for his people. But being able to serve and being able to do the things that we were doing, I knew that one day, that hopefully, prayerfully, that my children would have that same love for God and the same love for his people and want to be able to serve. And so when I say that I saw that, I witnessed that, it was just like a huge thank you, God. Thank you, God. So when I'm talking about generational faith, you all, that is the story that I'm talking about. That is the thing that I'm talking about, is that when you can live a life, when you can model things. Now, did we always get it right? Absolutely not. And that's what I want people to understand. We did not always get things right. Matter of fact, we messed up a lot, okay? We messed up a lot, but let me just say, our intentions were good. My intentions, my husband's intentions. We wanted to show our children that, hey, there could be a better way. Not only the way that you live your life as related to your relationship with Christ, but also in other things, in other ways. Like I said, being a good servant, being a loving person, being kind, being gentle, being a person that other people like to be around. Because, you know, sometimes there are some people who, you know, when people see them coming, they go the other way. But carry yourself in a way that is Christ-like. And I often say, I want to represent Christ well, but I also wanted my children to represent Christ well and my grandchildren to represent Christ well. You know, so oftentimes, so many times, and I've shared this with you all before, you know, my 21-year-old son will come downstairs and he'll come down and he'll say, Ma, he said, God is so good to me. He said, God is just so good to me. And I'll say, yes, he is, Will. Yes, he is. And he'll begin to share with me some of the things and that he's thankful for. Now, this is a young man who reads his Bible. He can have a very intelligent conversation with you about what he believes and how his values, his morals. And he's also a young man that buys Bibles and gives them to people. For instance, his nephew Chase wanted a Bible, and so Will purchased a Bible for him, and then was sharing with him different things about the Bible and different things like that. So, you know, it makes me feel good when he can say, you know, God is good. And he was, you know, he'll say, if God never does anything else for me, he's done enough. And to me, that just shows that he is grateful, that he is thankful, and that he understands where his blessings come from. And I'm not just talking about the material things, you all. We've got to get to the point where when we honor and we reverence God, we are not always talking about the material things. We're talking about the way that he brought us out of situations that that we should have never found ourselves in. I'm talking about how he lifts our heavy burdens when things get too heavy for us and we don't know which way to turn, you all. I'm talking about the things that God just allows us to see before we get ourselves entangled in, some stuff that we definitely don't need to be in. I'm talking about the things that God allows us not only to go there and to participate in, but then when we leave a good report. We leave a good report. We bless the people as we are participating in different things. And and another thing, what I wanted to share with you, I've said something about my son, but I also want to share a little bit of something about my grandson, TJ. For those of you all that know me and know my family, you all know that TJ is a very special young man who loves the Lord, I believe, with all his might, his heart, and whatever. TJ preached his first sermon when he was probably younger than 10 years old. And he still does that. He still does that. And, and even with that, I have to say, TJ is 20. I think he's 20. He may have turned 21. I think maybe him and Will are at the same age for a couple of months as well. And so one of the things I wanted to share with you all about TJ, yes. One of the things, honey, go ahead and take it. I read it. One of the things that I wanted to share with you all about TJ, yeah, I saw, is that I have been with TJ and we have, we may have been out thrifting or out shopping or something like that. And TJ will have seen, people. I'm thinking about this one example. TJ saw a guy that looked homeless and he was sitting outside the store, on the ground. And he looked like he needed he could use some help or something. And so, and TJ had some money and he asked me, he said, "Mommy, can I give this to this guy?" And so I said, "Sure, TJ." I said, if God is, unctioning you to do that, you always be obedient. And so when he went over and he was talking to the man and he gave him the money. But I watched TJ, I just sat in the car and watched him. TJ got down on one knee and he began to pray for the man. And I just looked at that and see, there's another full circle moment. And I was so proud of TJ, you all. I was so very proud of TJ. And that's not the first time he's done that. That's not the first time I've witnessed that. He does that a lot, a lot. And so much to the degree that we were worried about TJ when TJ went off to college. We were like, "Oh, Lord, he's going to give everybody everything he's got. He's going to, he's just going to do whatever." But he's good, you all. Hello there, Sister Jones. He is good. But let me just tell you, if we did not, his grandparents, his great grandparents, his mama, his daddy, the people that were around him on both sides of his family. One thing about it, those Culpeper kids, they've got it on both sides of the family. And so, but had he not had those experiences, had he not had those people in his life, I don't know. I would just hope that he would be the young man that he is. And also the rest of, my grandchildren, my children. I just pray that God will continue to keep this generational faith going strong in our lifeline, in our lineage, because when you live according to how you live according to God's word, you all, there are some struggles. And I said before, Y'all, I have my notes, but I am not, I'm all over the place on tonight, you all. But when you have that history, when you have that history, then one of the things that you will do is that you want it to continue. You don't want it to die. But let me just tell you, let me just share with y'all, give y'all a word of hope and a word of wisdom. That even though sometimes we may drop the ball, or the ball may have gotten dropped, and someone may decide, you know what, I've lived this life, or I don't want to live this life, and I'm really talking about the people who maybe sometimes situations happen, and you all, it happens in all of our lives. You know, sometimes things will happen out of the blue, and it would just kind of knock you to your knees, okay? It would just, that curveball would just hit you, and you don't know, you didn't even see it coming, but it hits you and it just knocks you down for a minute. But I want to encourage you all, don't stay there. Please do not stay there. Get back up. Learn whatever you need to learn from that situation, from whatever happened. Thank God that you have learned the lesson. And also, you all, sometimes the lesson is not necessarily for us, but sometimes God gives us and takes us down some paths so we can be a help to someone else that's coming behind us. So every situation that happens in our lives, I believe that everything in our lives is predestined. God knows, like the Bible talks about, you know, God knows our beginning. He knows our end. Our end was written before the beginning. So, you know, God knows the things that we're going to do. He knows the hang-ups and the trip-ups that we will have in our life. But just because you fall, please don't think that you have been written out, that God has discarded you, that you are no longer useful for the kingdom. You know, as long as you're able to wake up the next morning, you still have an opportunity to get it right. You still have an opportunity to serve. You still have an opportunity to love. You still have an opportunity to do the thing that God destined and created you to do. So many of us, we get turned aside. We start walking down a path and we think, oh, I have walked down this path for too long, or I have went too far. There is no hope for me. There is always hope. Listen, one of my favorite things that I like to say, my favorite saying, is that no matter what a person has been, they can choose to be different. And I'm going to say that one more time, because sometimes you have to hear something a second or third or seventh time before it gets into your spirit. Listen, you all, hear me well. No matter what you have done, no matter what a person has done, you can choose to be different. And all you have to do is just make up in your mind that, hey, I don't like where I'm going. I don't like the path that I'm traveling. I don't like the things that's happening in my life. I don't like this road. I do not like where I feel like I am going, the path that I'm going on. You know, you've tried several different things. It didn't work out. You've thought that, okay, if I do this, if I do that, if I do this, if I do that, then things will be okay. And it hasn't. Just hold on, you all. Just hold on. So many times we give up right before our breakthrough happens. How do I know? Because it's happened to me. Okay. I can, become so impatient, and I'm just like rushing things, and I want it to happen yesterday. I want it to happen yesterday. I want it to happen yesterday. I want it to happen 10 years ago. But God said, not so. He has a predestined time for everything to happen in our lives, okay? And so because he has that particular time and the things that is already planned out for our lives, if we would just stay the hand of walk the path that God has for us, and don't try to get sideways, don't try to jump ahead, don't try to, take some shortcuts and say, oh, if I do this, then it's going to put me, 10 years down the road. No, don't do that, okay? Just stay the course that God has created for you. And sometimes you may say, well, this is too hard, Mother Theresa. Guess what? I used to hear the old people saying, the old folks say, anything worth having is worth working for. Okay. So if it's worth having, you might have to go through some things. You may have to go through some trials. You may have to go through some tribulations. But guess what? Stay the course. Just stay the course. That's all. Just stay the course and watch how God make a way for you. Okay. Watch how he does things that's going to be better than you could have ever imagined. Well, listen, you all, I know that I have went just a little bit over my time on tonight, but I just wanted to share with you all that generational faith and leaving a legacy that lasts. If you feel like the legacy that you're leaving behind is not one that you would be proud of and that your family members would be proud of, guess what? It's not too late. Start building those memories. Start changing how you do things. Start trying to live and leave a legacy that your family would be proud of. Sometimes people come into this world and they leave out of this world, and sometimes people may not even know anything about them. But guess what? I believe that before they left, they fulfilled the destiny or the thing that God had for them. Otherwise, I believe that they would still be here. So what if their legacy is not huge and it's not grand? That was what God had for them. So if your legacy is not one that's huge or grand or where it's written about in the history books, that wasn't your story. That wasn't your legacy. Okay? But whatever it is, whatever your legacy is that God has for you, you all, I need you all to start walking in it. Okay? And as we are closing on tonight, one of the things I did want to share that sometimes, and I was talking about church, sometimes we can be in situations where sometimes there is some church hurt. And I want to end with this. Sometimes there's some church hurt and it will drive people away from church. What I will say, you all, don't let the enemy trick you into believing that is how it's supposed to end up. Okay? Do some soul searching. Try to get some things right. And then try to get back to where you need to be, wherever that is, however that is for you in your life. So, Father God, we thank you for the ones who came before us, the ones that we're raising, and for the ones who are yet to come. Help us to live and love in such a way that faith flows from generation to generation. And when the line breaks, let us be the repairer of the breach. Okay? Let us become the repairers of the breach. And so I just want to say, if you stayed with me for this throughout the entire message, listen, put something in the chat and let me know that you stayed for the entire time. You can just give me a thumbs up in the chat, but you got to put something in the chat because I have something that I want to send to you. I would ask that you all, if you are not a subscriber, if you are not a follower, that you consider following me on all of my social media platforms. I have Facebook, I have YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Follow me on all of those platforms. And then if you do that, and if you send me something just saying, hey, I enjoyed you on tonight, then guess what? I've got something special that I want to send to you all. But I got to know that you're paying attention and you're listening. All right, everybody? You all make it a great night. And as my sister Cynthia would say, good night, grandstanders. You all have a great week. And I will see you all on next week. And also, let me see. When I come to you all next week, no, Christmas won't be past. I'll make sure that I say Merry Christmas to you all a little bit later. Okay? All right, everybody. You all have a great night. And I do have some things that's coming up. Listen, for those of you all that's listening, there is going to be something special that's happening on my birthday. I've been working on some things. God has given me some additional talents and skills, and I'm working some things out. Listen, this office in here, it's a hotbed of work in here. I do a lot of work in here, and you all are going to see some things that's going to happen on my birthday. So y'all be listening and looking forward to some things that's going to just blow your mind. And when you see it, you all please partake, okay? December 21st, which is this upcoming Sunday. It's not this upcoming Sunday? Hold on. December 21st. Yes. It is this upcoming Sunday. This upcoming Sunday is my birthday. So y'all be on the lookout for some things. I'm giving myself some birthday presents, all right? All right. Bye-bye, everybody.